All right, here's a surprising stat for you. In the US, 34% of weekly podcast listeners are tuning in on YouTube, topping Spotify at 17% and Apple Podcasts at just 11%. I mean, it's pretty wild, right?
It's crazy. People think of YouTube as this massive video platform, but it's like quietly taking over the podcasting space.
And they haven't just lucked into it either. YouTube's actually been stepping up its game, adding audio-focused updates to make listening smoother, which feels like such a shift from how we used to think of the platform as just a place for funny cat videos.
Yeah, no kidding. And honestly, it's also about how Google is weaving it all together. Like, if you search for a podcast, YouTube's version might pop up right there alongside the other platforms. They're even talking about using Google Assistant to make it easier to find or, queue things up.
That integration across Google's ecosystem is such a huge advantage for them. You can clearly see how they're carving out space for themselves in the audio world. And the thing is, YouTube caters to so many kinds of listeners, whether you want full-length episodes or you're just binging on highlight clips. And don't get me started on their discovery algorithm.
Oh, it's a big deal. I'd bet the algorithm's just as much of the secret sauce for podcasting as it is for video. It can pull people into shows they'd never think to look for otherwise. And honestly, having shorts in the mix, that's genius. It's easier to find podcasts through bite-sized clips and then dive into the full episodes.
I also think that ability to appeal to different listening habits, full episodes, quick highlights, random algorithm recommendations, it's what makes YouTube stand out from platforms like Spotify and Apple that focus more heavily on traditional episode length formats.
Exactly. It's like YouTube isn't competing on the same terms as those other platforms. They're offering something bigger, Just a whole different kind of versatility.
And with all their moves to dominate the space, it's hard to ignore their potential for creators. But we'll get into that a little later. So, as we dive into their potential for creators, one of the most exciting aspects is monetization. Not just on full episodes, but also on quick highlight clips. It's kind of like double dipping in a dessert. You maximize what you're earning from the same content in different formats.
Right? And that extra revenue from clips? It's huge. It's like instead of hoping someone binge watches a whole episode, you get impressions even from these bite-sized shorts. Ads can run in both places, which means more income for creators.
Exactly. And that flexibility is what makes YouTube such a creative playground. But you also have to think about visibility, right? This isn't just throwing videos onto the platform and hoping the algorithm does all the work. Thumbnail design, searchable titles, they're everything.
Oh, totally. And thumbnails are like a huge science in themselves. I've seen some channels test 3 or 4 versions before they find one that works. Color, font, even just tweaking the brightness. It's all about catching someone's eye that split second they're scrolling.
And don't underestimate SEO either. You can work wonders just by optimizing the title with the right keywords, not stuffing it, but making it resonate with what your audience is searching for.
Yeah, that's really key. You're not just competing in the podcast space. You're going up against everything else on YouTube. I mean, the algorithm favors engagement, so if people are clicking, liking, or even sticking around for the next clip, it'll help you get seen more.
Oh, absolutely. YouTube can be this incredible amplifier if you experiment. Like, I worked with these small-town podcasters who wanted to break out of their local audience. So we tested short clips with catchy intros designed for the Shorts algorithm, and their channel just took off. I mean, they were reaching audiences they'd never imagined.
Wow, that's such an awesome example. It's really about knowing what your potential audience is looking for and meeting them there, on their schedule, in their format.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of it. YouTube's giving podcasters this toolkit to not only grow, but also build smarter. With the right strategies, making those tweaks to your workflow can really pay off. And that's just scratching the surface of what's possible. And speaking of what's possible, Eric, I want to share a story about a creator who started with absolutely nothing, no existing audience, no fancy setup, and went on to build a thriving podcast channel on YouTube.
Okay, I'm hooked already. What's their secret?
Well, they really leaned into YouTube's monetization and discovery tools. I'm talking about full episode uploads combined with shorts. They'd pull out these super engaging snippets from their episodes, funny moments, bold statements, things like that, and post them as shorts.
Ah, that strategy is killer. Shorts reach people who don't even know a podcast exists. It's like casting out dozens of little nets and seeing what bites, instead of hoping for clicks on a 2-hour episode first.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. The shorts didn't just drive views, they also brought in ad revenue. Kai Chuck from YouTube actually calls it double dipping. Ads run on both the clips and the full episodes. So it's not just more views, it's more income too.
Right, and it's not just about throwing up clips randomly, though. Like, were they strategic about using YouTube's discovery tools? Because that's where YouTube really shines. Getting new listeners who aren't actively searching for your show.
Oh, absolutely. They relied heavily on clickable thumbnails and used psychological triggers to capture attention. Things like bold fonts, contrast, and sometimes even adding a question to the image. Plus, their titles played into what people might type into the search bar. Kind of simple, but so effective.
Yeah, I'm guessing they had help from YouTube's algorithm, too. Kai Chuck mentioned that YouTube's audio-first features and personalized recommendations create this perfect storm for discoverability.
Right. And Steve McClendon from YouTube actually emphasized how podcasts have their own dedicated discovery pathways. So those shorts, when paired with a strong algorithm, created this snowball effect. The podcast didn't just attract listeners, it kept bringing them back for full episodes.
It's genius when you line it all up like that. And what I love, Sandra, is how you've shared advice before about balancing these formats for maximum reach. Long episodes for the loyal crowd, and then quick highlight reels for the casual scrollers.
Exactly. That's something creators really have to think about. Who's your audience, and how are they consuming your content? One size doesn't fit all. What this podcaster proved is that a hybrid strategy isn't just possible. It can actually explode your reach without doubling your workload.
It's so exciting, especially considering how seamless YouTube's tools make it now, like enhancing app consistency or even tackling that tricky car listening experience.
And it's only the beginning. You take that layered monetization, toss in Google's plans for tighter search integration, and you've got a platform that's practically engineered for podcasting success. Honestly, this is the moment for creators to jump on board.
Completely agree. YouTube's shifting the rules, letting creators adapt, try new things, and really make their mark without the same barriers you'd find elsewhere.
So, if you've been debating whether to expand your podcast onto YouTube, take this as your green light. And on that note, we're wrapping for today. Stay creative, stay innovative, and we'll see you next time.